Okay, we've brought you every Lions match to date here on Off the Ball, and it all comes to a head this Saturday at 5 o'clock. You can hear the crucial third and final series deciding match live on News Talk. Our coverage will be brought to you in association with Vodafone, lead partner of the British and Irish Lions. Your commentator will be Neil Tracy, who is absolutely hyped, I presume, at this stage on the week.
Yeah, can't wait for it now, to be honest. It's set up absolutely perfectly. If you think back to the last two tours, 2017 in New Zealand went down to that final game, and the tension around that one, in the end it was a draw. And I know Warren Gatland yesterday was asked about the prospect of, if it was a draw, would you play extra time? And he said he absolutely would. I don't think that's going to happen, to be totally honest. I don't think they can make a change to it now and play out a bit of extra time, but it would be a bit of an anticlimax, I suppose, if it was to be a draw. And then back in 2013, when we had all the controversy around Jonathan Davies being picked ahead of Brian O'Driscoll, and O'Driscoll dropped for the third test, and look at Warren Gatland got it right in the end because they hammered Australia in the second half of that. So it's a nice change from 2009 against the Box when it went down to and 2005 as well, when it was swept after the opening two games, and the third test was a dead rubber. So I think we're going to have a really good game this weekend, really exciting at the very least. I like the two teams. I think I'm slightly leaning towards the Lions, to be totally honest, with the way the teams have been named. I think what Gatland is putting out, not just in terms of a starting 15, but a 23, I think it has a bit more balance to it. I like the fact that Adam Beard is there on the bench, because he's going to be a huge part of disrupting the South African maul in the second half of that game when he comes on. I like the fact that Wyn Jones is back at loosehead prop. I think he was a massive loss in the opening two games, and I think the fact that he's starting, it means you're going to get more out of Mako Vunipola coming off the bench, because I thought in the South Africa A game and in the opening test as well, Mako Vunipola was really, really good when he did come off the bench, and I don't think he had the same impact when he started last week. And then I like the look in the centres as well of Robbie Henshaw and Bundee Aki together, and Josh Adams, who, bizarrely, when you think about it, 8 tries in those first 3 games for him. He hasn't played. He was due to start that. He hasn't played since the week before the first test. So he's completely gone off tour over the last few weeks. I think he's deserving of a place back in the side as well. And also, as Ross Tucker alluded to just before you let him go, Pieter-Steph du Toit missing for South Africa, Faf de Klerk missing for South Africa as well, and the fact that Duane Vermeulen hasn't been able to get back in there and prove his fitness to get into the starting 15, I think it's a bit of a leveler.
Any needle at all this week? It seems that it's been relatively interesting, as Gatland always is, but there's been no revenge in the media for last week.
No, and to be honest, I think both sides realised they kind of needed to tone it down a little bit in the build-up. I think you're still going to 100% get that needle out on the pitch.
Yeah.
Similar enough to what we would have had in the first half of the second test last Saturday. But I think Gatland has realised, constantly just poking each other between in the media isn't really doing anyone any favours, and it was. I think it was all just a really bad look last week, to be totally honest. The optics of it were pretty terrible. Both sides just making passive-aggressive comments at each other non-stop. The referees getting stuck in the middle, and Ben O'Keefe was left with an absolutely impossible job, as well as the rest of the officials last Saturday as well. So I think it's right that both sides are just toning down the comments to the media this week, and I think you just need to focus on the rugby. I still think all the niggle and all the intensity is going to be there, though, on Saturday.
And the momentum is definitely with South Africa. Do you think, obviously we've 6 changes in there too with the Lions, will they change it up tactically, how they play? What do you think we'll see different from the last test?
I think the Lions certainly are going to change it up. Like having Ali Price back in there ahead of Conor Murray as well. I think it's going to look a lot more like the Lions team of the opening test, where they had a little bit more tempo. And I thought it actually worked quite. Like, I know we obviously want to see someone like Conor Murray starting a Lions test, but I think he was actually more effective when he came off the bench to be able to kind of manage the game for the Lions in the second half of that opening test, where Ali Price was able to kind of set the tone and Murray's able to come on and finish the job and manage things really well. Whereas I think in the second test, by the time they were able to make that change, they were into chasing it at that point. So I think the Lions selection, it just seems a bit more sensible all round, I kind of think. And I think you're going to see the Lions looking a lot more like the first test, where they were actually able to improve as the game went on, as opposed to last week, where they kind of laid all their cards out in the opening half and weren't really able to to lay a glove on South Africa in the second half. And I think from South Africa's point of view, I'm curious to see what happens with how they play off scrum half, because as we've always seen, Faf de Klerk kicks the leather off the ball and does so brilliantly. It's not a criticism of him. He does it brilliantly, but obviously he's out injured. Cobus Reinach is in, who would be more known for his ability to run with the ball. He kind of plays almost in the style of Antoine Dupont, where you would have seen him at the 2019 Rugby World Cup, where he's just popping up on everybody's shoulder, left, right and centre, looking for offloads. But I have seen people who have seen a lot more of Cobus Reinach over the last year, 18 months, talking about how his game has developed over the last 12 months, where he left Northampton Saints and moved to Montpellier. And remember as well, he's playing alongside Handré Pollard, who is a clubmate of his at Montpellier as well. So even the fact that South Africa haven't played too much rugby together over the last year or so, they're 9 and 10 are with each other every single day at Montpellier. Now, I know Handré Pollard was out all season with a cruciate, but even just having that little bit of continuity is probably going to be important too.
Absolutely. Well, it's going to be a 5 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. Neil Tracy will be your lead commentator for that.